This is Winging It, the somewhat whimsical, certainly worrying, decidedly wonky, seldom weighty, endlessly well-intentioned, and wildly witty show about music, where one knows what's coming and the other one doesn't. And it happens between both proper to ensure you can spend anywhere from 15 to 180 minutes with us every week. And by now, you're all sitting there going, okay, this is the part where Christina says she's doing it and David doesn't know anything, therefore he's just been allowed to coast this whole time. Well, for the second time ever, I'm moved with pity for Bof's own beast of burden, the overworked Christina, who really does everything around here. So I decided I'd, give her a little break and
throw me a fucking bone.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't want to say it, but yeah, throw her a bone. And so here I am doing Winging It for the second time only.
Yes. And
I'm doing it. If you'll pardon me, I'm trying to do it Rat Pack style with the microphone in my hand, not on the table. Kind of, Christina said it gave me a little, kind of a Vegas.
Je ne sais quoi.
Yeah, je ne sais quoi. Kind of a
little
little suave thing, a little swagger,
Yeah,
as if I need more, And so forth. So I'm going to do Winging It this time, and she has no clue what is coming. And hopefully I've chosen more wisely than I often do on various songbirds and hummingbirds, and doing ones that she is able to speak on and knows and has opinion on in the first place, because that's part of it, is we usually find some interesting, wildly interesting list. And that's similar here. And, of course, we often add our little custom embellishments,
Of course.
And our personal recommendations, what we in our infinite wisdom would have done. What we think belonged on there. And tonight, Christina's going to have to come up with a title for this one for the listing, because I don't know what to call it.
But, I have it as TBD right now.
TBD, yeah. I mean,
seems fitting.
The theme in generally stated is, hello, you love us? First songs from first albums. Wise choices? Or something like that, know. So, you know what I'm talking about here anyway. You can come up with something pithy, I'm sure, about it. She's a master marketer. See, I thought I was doing okay with butterflies and hurricanes, but honestly, does she market brilliant? That's why you're listening. It isn't because you want to hear me. It's because of the marketing.
I think it's probably a little bit of both.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear me, just you and the marketing.
No.
That's what it is.
You and the marketing. All right, now, so they say you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And incredibly, even musicians seem to understand this. Now, rock stars might not always be known for displaying good judgment or making wise choices, as we've dabbled in that subject. But even these overgrown children often evidence an uncanny wisdom in how they choose to introduce themselves to the world. Of course, back in the day, before YouTube and Spotify and all that, the general public's first taste of an artist's audio confections came by way of the radio single. In many cases, they were also the first album tracks anyway, but not always. So we're going to look at a list compiled by WXPN Radio and passed on by the venerable NPR, and just try to imagine, not in that time too, dropping that 12-inch black platter onto your table, letting the needle ride, and hearing this act for the first time. Does track 1, side 1 serve as an appetizer, or do you just want to say, check please, and head for the door? All right, tell you what I think, and then you give us your opinion there, Cookie.
All right.
Well, 1969. It was the goodest of times. It was the baddest of times. And singing a little ditty to us about both was two industry veterans and two newcomers who christened themselves Led Zeppelin. I personally love their choice of Good Times, Bad Times to open up the first album. They seem to as well, because they began their 2007 reunion concert with it also. Anyway, the song begins with a bow and some, kind of cute little percussion. But the first verse has a kind of an almost nerdy riff supporting it. I mean, it's adorable. It's classic 60s pop, and then a chorus with some really aggressive drumming and a lyrical little bass tie. But the second verse is undergirded by a much more muscular riff. So it's getting stronger in increments, even though it was pleasant enough to start with. And then there's another chorus and a second of silence before Jimmy Page takes off the gloves and really lets loose with some maniacal acid rock soloing. And drummer John Bonham already making the name for himself that would be revered to this day. The song rounds out with some classic Robert Plant vocal vamping into the fade-out, sort of a trademark of his.
Yes.
And there it is. So Led Zeppelin on the first album, I think, did something that's always been an integral part of a successful record album, movie, concert, or even fireworks display. They started strong, came out guns blazing, but saved the really big cannons for last. Of course, sometimes as well, as we will see, it's good strategy to start with a scream and end with a whisper for dramatic emphasis as far as albums go.
Right.
Like Ascent and their album Evolution of Sorrow Bleed Like Us, for example. Wouldn't you say that was a good example?
I would say it's an excellent example, actually.
Right? Okay. But Zeppelin always started strong. Look at the first tracks in order. Good Times, Bad Times, Whole Lot of Love, Immigrant Song, Black Dog. The song remains the same, Custard Pie, Achilles' Last Stand, and In the Evening.
See, here's the thing. They get it. You have to kind of knock them over the head. You just you got to pull them in. You got to keep them in. And, those songs really, to me, they really set off those albums perfectly. I mean, I can think of other songs that would have gone there, but they wouldn't have been as good a fit, and they wouldn't have set the tone for the album the way that those did. They just wouldn't.
They wouldn't.
It's
and
brilliantly
there's something
selected
about each one of them that is so perfect. Even Custard Pie, which is kind of raw and basic, but it's so, and the album gets like super progressive. It's still a perfect representation of what they're about to do for 4 brilliant sides in 1975.
And what I like too, though, is I like that it's kind of like there's appetizers and then there's full meals in songs. And sometimes you go back and forth, your appetizer, meal. And I really like that because I think that it appeals to everybody. That's one of the strengths of their first songs and all their albums is they pull in anybody.
Right, and they would not, as wonderful as they are, these guys are not about to start an album with Tangerine or Going to California.
No, and they shouldn't.
And they shouldn't,
They're good songs, but that's not, those are power songs, the ones that they started with.
Yeah, so Punkin, I would say you're in favor of their choice on that one, right?
Absolutely, no, I absolutely agree with it. And I like what you said, because I feels like that song starts off with with a lighter fare. It's like a lighter fare, and then it starts to get kicked in. And I like that, where you go, oh, that's all right, there it is.
And during that great outro vamp, Page is doing it too. They're both just fucking going.
That's what they do.
So is Bonham. I mean, the only one who's not going batshit crazy is Jones, because he has to. He's got
to keep it in line. But yeah,
he gets his turns. That's for sure. He really gets his turns to go off. But that just not when the other guys are all doing it too. They're not the fucking Who. Everybody's playing solos there, and Zeppelin, it's only 3 at a time.
So what I really like that Bruce and I try to do too is I'll sing something and then he will return the what I say, and it's kind of like it's a conversation, and I think that's what Page and Plant do, and I just love it.
Call and response, it is timeless.
That's it,
it is absolutely timeless. And we know there's a certain other power duo that was doing it around the same time earlier. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
They took it where nobody ever did.
They did. That's right.
So and here's another possible winner. The Doors, Break On Through to the other side. All right, so, the 60s are wearing on, and you find yourself a hippy-dippy with this new record, and you drop it on, and this little electric butterfly label thing is going around and around, and you hear snare, rim shots, and some crazy bossa nova rhythm, and then this cat starts crooning before the whole thing goes off the fucking rails in a screaming rock frenzy. I think this is a sensational album opener. Would I want to hear more after that alone? Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm in for the ride. And the next track was Soul Kitchen. I mean, really, come on.
Yeah.
The hooks are in deep, and we know what else is on the album, too, that first one. Good call from these young fellows. What do you think?
I think it's a good call. I was trying to think if there's anything else on that album that I would have opened with or that would have even been an option. I'm trying to think.
I thought that the other day, and I looked, but I can't remember. I think I settled on that one anyway, but there are some killers on there.
There's some killers, but I feel like they're being so deliberate about what they're selecting, and I think you have to be. That's why I had you listen to our song order. Like, does this do it? Is this the right? Because could we have started with a different song? Yeah, but it kind of hopefully does one of these things, like where it builds and then kind of.
They would not want to start that album with The End, okay?
No. Oh my God.
Although they started the concert with When the Music's Over. That was a surprise, you know? It's harder than The End, though. Yeah.
The End is just.
They did them both at the Hollywood Bowl.
Beautiful.
Movie on the big screen, worldwide, one night only. The Doors, 68 Hollywood Bowl concert, and I was there. They did The End and When the Music's Over. That's a hell of a thing, you know?
That is.
But,
you can't start the beginning with the end. I don't know. I mean, I guess you could, but it's a pretty big downer.
Starting with the album with Break On Through to the Other Side. Yeah, baby. I think that was
and you
perfect.
do. Yeah, I mean, what I like is it's exactly what you're about to do. You're about to kind of go over the bridge to the other side, and you're going to go on a fucking ride you're not going to forget. So I think it's brilliant. I love it.
And, I mean, well, that's another subject for another time, but there are songs on there that simply can't be overplayed.
No,
and
I agree.
There are some all-time classics on there. I mean, 20th Century Fox,
yeah.
Light My Fire. Forget it. I mean, it's off the absolutely off the hook.
There's never a time I don't want to hear him sing something. His voice is just beautiful. And then when he breaks out into that super rock vocalist from that crooning, I can't even handle it. I just wish we could have heard, whatever, more decades of him doing what he did. But man, there's never a time I don't want to hear that voice.
That crooning thing, that savage animal thing. I mean, he was just so brilliant. And that concert I was talking about, oh my goodness, his vocal performance is the best I've ever seen.
Yes.
I mean, I've heard he was erratic live. I've heard he was hit and miss, but this was rock solid. It was only after 3 albums too.
Yeah.
But it was probably their best show, so it was just incredible to see.
My goodness.
And the movie started, for the listeners, with modern day footage of Robbie Krieger and John Densmore talking about the L.A. Woman album, and with 2 other musicians, they play Riders on the Storm and L.A. Woman. And these old geezers are kicking ass. It's brilliant, brilliant stuff. All right, so thumbs up for The Doors by the panel.
Absolutely.
We already talked about Heart and Magic Man extensively, and what a knock out of the park hook that was.
Oh, perfect.
Here's one. It's like, okay. We've had super on fire ones, but they can't all be.
They can't all be. Oh, I was worried about this.
The temperature has to go down
a little bit,
a little lukewarm, but and maybe it might get cold occasionally. The Eagles, Take It Easy. I mean, honestly, it's considering their sound at the time. I suppose it makes sense, but it doesn't blow your hair back exactly.
No,
it doesn't.
No, and I don't even know if it sets the tone for the album well. That's my problem, too, is I don't think it does.
Yeah, and I don't know what they could have picked. And when I'm thinking about what a choice it was, I'm confining myself only to that album, of course. At the time, they had the choice of starting with something. So far, they've really done it up. I'm not so sure about this one, but I'm offhand, I can't remember exactly what's on it.
Yeah,
so,
but Take It Easy, no matter what's on it, even if that was going to be there, they thought their runaway hit. No fucking way.
The hit can be the second track, though, or the 8th track, or anything.
Because that is not one that if you're going to drop that needle on my album, I don't want you to hear that first. Well, I don't. That's a B-side to me. I apologize, but it's a B-side.
Oh, wow, a B-side even. Certainly not a first track.
No.
But however, it's going to get a lot colder because to me, this is a real flop coming up.
Uh-oh.
Okay, that was not a good choice. Neither was the disastrous choice of Billy Joel. She's Got a Way? Really? That's what you open with? And there's this really fast-driving piano rocker on there called Everybody Loves You Now. That would have been the way to go in my book. I'd have to say things worked out pretty well for Billy after all, though, didn't they?
Yeah, I don't think he's crying anywhere in the corner.
But in retrospect, if you were there, if I were advising him, friends don't let friends start albums with songs like that.
No, I would have said, you got to have something a little more mid-tempo, up-tempo. I mean, I just don't think, unless you're Barry Manilow. I think if you're Barry Manilow, you can totally get away with that, and I think it actually makes fucking sense.
It might make sense, although really, he usually has a rocker at start. Yeah, absolutely.
Even Barry Manilow, Billy, what the fuck? I mean,
I have three of his albums, and he's a hell of an arranger, and he's a hell of an album arranger. I mean, he really puts shit together good. I like his music. I do anyway. I'm a big fan. So
question.
What?
With Bob Dylan, does he open with the Sleepy Ones, or does he open with, I don't know, Ass Kickers?
I'd have to think. Yeah, he might not open with Ass Kickers, but he does them, though. He's a real great blues rocker,
right,
Dylan.
But,
he is.
So that's going to be interesting to see what you think of those. We should return to that some point later.
I wonder if there's even a worse choice coming up, but
shit.
Maybe not immediately, okay?
I'm so scared.
Sorry, Billy, that was a bad one. Yeah.
Probably not advisable, dude.
Crosby, Stills, and toy boats, traveling in toy boats.
Unique New York.
Yeah, unique New York. Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
Rubber Baby Buggy Bumpers.
Take 4. Crosby, Stills, and Nash. That is not usually regarded as a tongue twister.
No, not normally.
Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Sweet Judy Blue Eyes. Well, I think they did a very solid job of establishing their strong musicianship and their superb harmonies, and they're not the real headbanging kind of group anyway.
No.
So I'd say it was a pretty good call.
I don't know. I mean, it's a good song. I think it's a good call, but I'm going to put my bet on there's probably something that would have been better.
Okay, all right, fair enough. What about this one? This is a notable one. The first solo album by Genesis drummer Phil Collins. And here, there's, I think, personally, a brilliant exception to the rule. Nothing strong and driving, and in fact, you're halfway in through the song before there's even a drum. But when that song is as grabby and haunting as In the Air Tonight, all you can do is sit back and go, wow. I mean, it's It doesn't start off galloping out of the gate, but it's pretty damn powerful. Maybe not a first choice, but if there was one that, kind of was laid back, it might be this one. I don't know.
That is one of my go-to songs. Like, if I need to just kind of get my shit going, that's just one of those songs. I would not have put it at the beginning of an album. It would have been probably song number 3. Even though it's an amazing song, I don't know that when that album came out, that song was a runaway hit like it is. I probably would have had that number 3, probably maybe even number 4 right in the middle. I'm not sure I would have had that first.
So a little more rockin',
even
something.
Yeah, a little, maybe
even
more
a
like
pop,
anything.
Something.
Give me something more than that, than no percussion, and then finally it kicks in.
Well, I don't think in any era or generation will this be considered pop.
Great.
Jimi Hendrix Experience, Purple Haze.
Okay, well...
what can I say?
You can't start out stronger than that.
It was a masterstroke.
Just do your thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't argue with that. That was brilliant.
I mean, any thought we might have, we clap our hands over our filthy sewer holes. We will not question a choice like that.
No, that was amazing. Yeah, no.
I don't know. You're probably not familiar with the Sex Pistols' Holidays in the Sun.
No.
But I'll just mention it for the listeners because there are some dinos out there who will remember that based on the crap we were reading in Cream and Circus magazine, these numbnuts teenage kids thought it was so cool, the aggression of the Sex Pistols, that we would have been surprised by the level of musicianship and production and lyrical quality of that album that stands up well to this day. I think it was a good choice to begin an album with a song with these militaristic stomping and a chorus,
sense.
And it's a very, very powerful beginning.
That sounds like a good choice, although I'm not familiar. But it sounds solid.
Sort of a tie there, and a group that would openly laugh in magazines at the Sex Pistols for their alleged aggression, saying we're much more aggressive than they are. We laughed our asses off when we saw all that press. They deemed themselves to be much more hardcore. Emerson, Lake and Palmer,
yeah,
who started their very first album with The Barbarian. Now this
well,
it's kind of fascinating. They started with a nitro-fueled 3-piece band version of a Bela Bartok piano piece, a composer whose percussive keyboard style clearly influenced Emerson a great deal. Clearly. The sound is one that borders on frightening, really. No one had heard anything like this before, and it was very common for critics in those days to categorize them as a heavy metal group, despite the extremely rare use of guitar, and even usually that was acoustic. Because the sound is so harsh and overwhelming, that handle seemed to fit somehow.
I think also they had a different definition of what that was at that time, and that was hard, and that was extreme, and that was considered, like you said, aggressive. It was, and so they felt like, please, that's adorable, Sex Pistols, have a seat. Let's go ahead and kick your ass with this classic that we turned into this masterpiece. And I love the percussive keyboard. That is a defining thing for sure for ELP, but then also I think what made them feel more hard rock, more metal, even without a guitar. I mean, that's something to be called that without a guitar. Like this, this heavy guitar is what you expect.
It is, some of the classical composers would be putting out that kind of thing,
right,
if they lived with the technology we have. There's no question that Beethoven certainly would have been doing that. Right. To me, classical music is hard rock and progressive rock without electricity. That's pretty much what it comes down to me. And nobody has introduced me to the classical world more than Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I was discovering them when with the suburban kids in the 70s, and they were playing us classical in school, and I thought, wow, that's what kind of turned me into a lifelong classical music fan, which is always a good thing to be. I mean, classical music enriches your life in a way it's hard to explain.
Well, so does progressive rock.
So does progressive rock, yeah.
It really does. It's just, I believe things that make you think and really kind of challenge your mind. They're not ABC. They're more intricate, more interesting. I really think that it kind of takes you to a different place in your psyche. I think you go somewhere different. And I think it just takes it to the next level. And that's what I love about those two forms of music and jazz. Like real jazz, not this smooth jazz stuff. I'm talking like, Thelonious Monk and things like that. That's what I'm talking about.
And that's what sets Emerson, Lake and Palmer apart, really, from any other rock group, is it's classical, hard progressive rock. That album would go on to contain acoustic guitar ballads like Take a Pebble and Lucky Man, which he wrote when he was 12, which will come up later on in a certain discussion. But on another show, perhaps, which you should also tune into. That album, I think, starting with The Barbarian, an instrumental, it gives them a sound that they hadn't heard before. Whereas if they played Take a Peddler, Lucky Man, they've heard that kind of thing from other artists.
Right.
This is ELP only, and that's what they started with. I think it was a pretty good choice. What do you think?
I think so too, and I think it's a bold choice to go with an instrumental. But one of the things that I really like about that too is you may have people who were listening for the vocals the entire song, so you really have them right in the palm of your hand because they're waiting for the vocal to kick in and it never comes.
It never comes.
So it's kind of amazing to do that as well. So I think that's brilliant. It's also risky though, right? It's also a risk, but with that kind of an opening, are you really risking anything? You're not.
Well, I think my history is slipping because I'm getting old. I'm 60 now. But I think they made a name for themselves at the Isle of Wight Festival or something by playing. It was the first.
I'm not sure about that.
They introduced themselves to the audience, to the public for the first time at a big festival, playing Pictures at an Exhibition. Now, playing an entire suite about Modest Mussorgsky's tone poems and things, and piano pieces or orchestrated, is pretty damn bold.
It's amazing.
But
that makes me love them even more.
It got them where they are, and rightly so. People were saying, wow, a group that will do that has got our attention.
Absolutely.
And another Electra Butterfly artist, a fantastic band with 4 songwriters and 3 singers, began with an amazing riff on a tune penned by the band's guitar player. Queen introduced themselves with Keep Yourself Alive. It wasn't the first Queen song or album I'd heard, but had it been, I would have been in like Flynn at the time. I can just only imagine being back there. I discovered them on the 3rd album. How do you think about that as an opener?
I definitely love it. I mean, I think it's kind of a soaring song. It's an uplifting song. It's it kind of gives you a good elated feeling, I think, that song, and I think it's perfect. And it's kind of got all the classic Queen, components in it. So I think it's a great opener for many reasons. No, I really, really like that. I hadn't thought about it, but I really do like that.
And a little bonus, we get we get some interplay between Roger Taylor and Freddie Mercury. Do you think you're better every day? No, I think near
Which
to my
I
grave.
like.
It is so good, and the song is fun. It is uplifting.
It is.
But it's kind of proggy at the same time.
Which I love.
And it kind of gives you a hint of why you should not give up on Queen ever and see what they're going to come up with.
And why you should never, ever think that they're done. That that's all they've got. No. You don't even know what to expect. And Queen just takes you all over places with, again, everything from like doo-wop and like 50s stuff all the way to like hard rock, pseudo metal, ballads. I mean, there's nowhere they didn't go. So you could never count them out.
In the beginning, in the first few albums, especially the first 2, it was hard and progressive and dark.
Yes, I love it.
And it was unbelievable. And then they started to branch into like incredible stuff. I mean,
love.
We've talked about Sheer Heart Attack at length anyway.
Yes.
But a good choice. And I think we both agree that was a good choice. And 4 American lads who use British spelling in their band name, Living Colour, put their best foot forward, obviously, at about 60 miles an hour right into your groin with Cult of Personality. No matter where I am, if this comes on, I absolutely lose my shit.
Absolutely.
And spaz out.
Who doesn't?
As Punk in here can verify. This comes on and I'm gone.
It's one of those songs. It's
I'll be committed.
Fucking brilliant song.
I will be carried away.
Absolutely. No, this is, I'm sad that we didn't hear more from Living Colour in the same way we heard this. This is one of those songs that is just, it's forever feels fresh. It forever feels new. It feels applicable. It's a fucking hard rocker. No one plays guitar like.
Yeah, don't be afraid of Vernon Reid, kiddies. He only wants to use his guitar to melt your face like that dude in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Seriously.
That's all.
And he does. The stuff he does on guitar, you just kind of shrug and go, okay, I can't even start to just compute that. And you just enjoy the shit of the song. It's sheer brilliance. I can't imagine opening an album with anything stronger.
These guys even had a way with pop hooks and doing songs like Glamour Boys. And, they kicked off their first album with the pedal to the very heavy metal, and they couldn't have done any better.
They couldn't have. No, there's no doubt.
All right, once upon a time when I was in high school, a hard rock quartet with a hammy, flamboyant streak broke out on the scene, introducing the world to a new kind of guitar hero for the ages. And as strong as Van Halen's first track, Running with the Devil, was, Eddie VH held back the real six-string fireworks a bit after that particular number. And then we got Eruption and their Kinks cover, You Really Got Me, hot on its heels. I remember hearing this for the first time, being in high school. Yeah, boom, 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 boom. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I was gone, baby, gone when I heard that.
Absolutely.
So what do you think? Good choice?
Oh, an amazing choice. Absolutely. I can't think of anything that for that particular album that would have started it off better. I mean, I'm trying to think of all the songs that are on that, but that one just, like you said, the way it starts, it's just like, oh, God, it hits so
ends
hard.
with like On Fire, and they got like Atomic Punk in there. I mean, it's like we didn't know what hit us.
No, and that's you're going to get so much more of that. So it seems perfect, but I'm just, absolutely. Oh my God, yeah. A great way to start an album. Shit.
Yep. Great way to start an album and a career.
And a career.
How the mighty have fallen, though.
Uh-oh.
Another band member going solo. Paul McCartney leads off with, wait for it, the lovely Linda. No, really. I think this called for an intervention, okay? I mean,
where were his fellow Beatles?
He did fine, but I mean, nobody tell this man, even Linda, like, please don't start the album with this song.
Yeah.
That's nuts. Anyway, but all is well that ends well for us, Paul.
Again, none of these people, if we disagree, they're not hurting. They're not
right.
They're not reeling from this decision.
Trying to imagine, I mean, it worked out obviously, but if you were it worked out in spite of that.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I mean, if you have, if your album doesn't start with the best song, but you got a single out that people like, or people are going to love you anyway.
Right.
But you still want an album to flow in a certain way.
Right, and it becomes timeless that way. In classic, you go, oh my God, this is this band.
His band, however, the Beatles, nailed it, I think, counting in 1, 2, 3, 4 at the beginning of the proto-punk classic, I Saw Her Standing There. I like that as a choice, and, really, as many songs of the 50s and 60s are, it's a punk rocker at heart. Bands who would cover songs like that later on and made it abundantly clear, like the Ramones with Surfin' Bird, Do You Want to Dance, and so forth and everything. A lot of those songs are punky, but they just needed to be cranked up a little bit. I Saw Her Standing There is loose, it's rowdy, it's ballroom rock with lots of Spitfire fills from Mr. Ringo Starr, and a hint of the great Beatles harmonies to follow. If you're gonna, I mean, in that early on, it's a good song to start with.
I don't know. I feel like that's pretty pedestrian, that song. I mean, I don't get that from it. I feel like it's just kind of it feels a little saccharine, and it feels a little kind of, I mean, based on some of the other stuff, I don't know that I would have started with that one. I'm not saying it's a weak start, but I probably would have picked another one.
I think you're just too hardcore. I think that establishes the Beatles as a rock and roll band myself.
I don't know.
Anyway.
I mean, I didn't say it was cute.
Thank heaven for that.
It's not cute. It's a good song.
Oh, Sir Paul might come up in discussion also later on. Perhaps not in the best light either.
Oh my.
Nothing for me. Nothing for me.
I was going to say it can't be.
Not me, no. All right,
but he already knows that you picked you picked Lennon over him, though, right? So, I mean, you can't go much further back down with him than that.
Things have been a little rocky with Sir Paul since then. I shouldn't have outed myself on that. Speaking of punk, the band that galvanized the whole thing and even influenced the British, who we bloody wankers sometimes think of as having invented it. Whenever anybody does punk, they throw a British accent in there.
It's
just because it's so punk. Yeah.
I do that.
You do. Me. Roll, you bloody wankers!
Yeah, you do. Yes, for sure.
But the Ramones were four delightful New York lads who, unable to simply figure out how to play the Beatles or Alice Cooper songs, came up with a whole new bag of their own. Singing to us about cretins, pinheads, sniffing glue, chainsaw massacres.
Perfect.
Perfect, right? And such in the most winsome imaginable way. Kicked off their debut with the immortal Blitzkrieg Bop.
Okay.
Come on now. Exhorting their audience with a friendly, hey ho, let's go.
Come on.
I was around back then, and I went along with that too. So
I don't know if it's friendly. It's like, hey, ho. Let's go.
It's a little unhinged, as the Ramones should be. They sang about the wackest shit.
They did, but it worked.
But you didn't even notice.
You didn't even care.
Ritual sacrifices and things like that and everything. It's all their bag.
That's what you got to do. You got to kind of shroud it.
Yeah.
You can get it by, but you got to kind of, it's got to be cloaked. But no,
when you
absolutely.
have that much fun, you can do anything. I even like the darker, heavier stuff that they did later on.
I do too. No, I like the darker, heavier stuff too. But that
and
song
the early fun. Good choice.
I mean, come on, that song. Even if you don't like punk, how could you not like that song?
Well, we know who liked punk. Little segue there, because
wow,
we're staying on theme purely by accident, I assure you. There was a group of Irish lads who were very much influenced by punk.
Oh, interesting.
Even working Joey Ramone's name into
I know
a
who
song
they are.
title.
I know who they are.
And took their name from a military plane. U2 put their most rocking foot forward, I think, with an explosive track called I Will Follow.
Come on.
Hell yeah. They're not the hardest band in the world, but this is a ballsy but uplifting track that might not be typical of their sound, but definitely endeared them to us, don't you think?
Well, it was pretty typical at the time. They were punk. They were really kind of raging against all kinds of machines. They had, they had battle cries. I feel like it is part of what they do. This was the more crunchy, kind of grungy, punky side of them, and I really like it. And I think I Will Follow is something that, even again, if you don't like punk, you're gonna like this song. It's just one of those, walk away, walk away, walk away, walk away. I will follow. I mean, come on. It's kind of like the, hey, ho, let's go. I mean, it's there. So I think it's a great way to start out an album. It wasn't too pithy. It wasn't too weepy. It was perfect.
It was even kind of a little bit of, dare we say, gasp fun.
Yeah,
a little bit,
right?
a tiny bit, as much as Bono will allow,
There's he allows plenty. Have you heard?
Oh, I know.
Are you fucking kidding me?
We're talking about The Fly here. Yes, I understand.
Okay,
that.
you better. You better recognize.
I gotta rile Christina up. It's getting late,
You better recognize.
It's getting a little late. She drove a long way. I gotta wake her up, All right, so we agree again, not to disagree so far, but
there was a little disagreeing, yeah.
And another band that started off their recording canon with a great rocker, not that typical of their sound, was the Police with Next to You. It's a wonderful, energetic, absolutely frantic song that works its magic because it casts its glow over all the songs to come on the album. So, what can I do? All I want is to be next to you. I mean, priceless. I love this. I love this, and I love these guys. I think it was a good move.
I think it's a good move. I don't know that there wasn't a song on that album that I would have picked over that one. I think there probably is. Not that it was a bad choice. I think there could have been a better choice. And I am a very well-practiced Police lover. So I am very, very familiar with their canon. And I just think that there are some things, maybe there could have been another song that could have more encapsulated their sound. Not that that was a bad choice, but I think there could have been a better choice.
Well, you'd be missing out if that was all they had. And if you hear that song, maybe you might not. But maybe it's because I'm biased because I do know what else is coming. But at the time, I'm trying not. The whole idea of this is not to do that. But I fucking heard the thing already. Okay?
Okay.
All right, another band starting off things in a decidedly punk vein. There's just all this punk
what
stuff
the fuck?
going, right? Though their singer-songwriter can craft a pop melody with the best of them, was the Pretenders. With the track so raw, it's still bloody. The song was Precious. Again, I was around back then when this came out, and I had been reading at the time in these magazines about this Chrissie Hynde person, and found myself kind of awestruck when I heard it by her songwriting prowess and range. This is the same album that included everything from the radio-friendly Brass in Pocket to the Your Mama Won't Like This song, Tattooed Love Boys, wherein she, as one critic put it, spits out pitiless razor blades, lyrics, I shot my mouth off and you showed me what that hole was for. I mean, that's about as raw as it gets. Yikes.
I like it.
I would have to say Precious was a better opening song than that one anyway, even though they both rock hard. And a damn fine first volley, personally. Do you know that one? You probably don't.
I know it. I think I've heard it maybe 3 times.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously,
yeah.
I'm much more familiar with the radio-friendly parts. Not that I don't like the Pretenders, because I certainly do. Though she does have vocals that are something that took me a while to get used to.
An acquired taste.
Yes, there it is.
Yeah. And some you never acquire, but I loved her from the start. But I understand.
I
She's
did
different.
not love her from the start. I was like,
she's different. Oh, you ever hear her sing Dylan's I Shall Be Released? Oh, my goodness, it's wonderful. Anyway, I get it. I don't know, it's different.
But I will say the I Stand By You, that song still kills me to this day.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And the way she sings it with the level of emotion, and she's
Exactly.
so earnest, and it's
beautiful. She has a lot of songs like that.
What I like about her voice that you don't get from a lot is the rawness in her voice, and the emotion is right there on the surface. You don't have to search for it. So I grew to love her. Again, sometimes it's repetition that endears you to a type of music or a vocalist, and that's kind of where I am. So I have to say, I think Brass in Pocket, that song, I don't think they could have gone wrong if they started with that song, but I don't
It's
think
a good opener, yeah.
But
yeah.
it doesn't represent their sound the way Precious does.
Not quite,
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's too, I don't know, it's too light.
It was, it is too A-B. And they're not A-B.
No, it's not. It's great that they can do that. And as you said, the emotional songs that are so wrenching, and even the first album has them, contrast those with songs like we talked about, Tattooed Love Boys.
Absolutely.
I mean, she's a genius.
She really is amazing. She's an amazing talent, and I'm really glad that I can, even though, a very low level, can stand kind of with her as a vocalist, and we are so different, but hopefully we convey emotion and all of those things, but in such a different way that I respect, and I'm glad I finally got it. Even if I didn't get in the beginning, I got it.
Right? Me too. I did from the start, personally.
Right.
Now, for something completely different, Sade is on this list. Smooth Operator. If you're Sade, that's a damn good way to start. You might as well. I mean, she's, probably...
There's no need to ask.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that is one of my favorites, like, just smooth-ass voices.
Diamond Life. Oh, she's so good.
Who said it? I think it was my friend TJ. So if my friend TJ ever hears this, I think he said her voice is like sunshine through honey. That's how he's described her voice, and I never forgot that because it's totally true. Sade's voice is like sunshine through honey. It absolutely is, and it's just this smooth. There's no rough edges. It just puts you in a place, and to hear her sing "Smooth Operator" is just a joy. I could hear her sing anything. That voice, it just puts me. I'm just transfixed.
Yeah, absolutely, and wasn't it great? We were at that karaoke last time we did karaoke. Some lady did Sade, or did I completely dream that?
No, you're right.
Yeah, okay, it happened. Okay, it's always nice to know when things really happen.
But it's one of those things.
I make them up so much.
With her, I would never try to cover her, or even she's just.
No, not really.
There's no one who has a voice like that. It's just different. But to start with Smooth Operator, you just have to. Although the Sweetest Taboo.
Oh yes.
The way that you know what I mean? Like it starts. It would be a great opener too, and I think both of them kind of give you a hint of what her style is. So I think either of those could have gone, but Smooth Operator was a runaway hit. Yes,
it was. But any one of those, her sound is just a gorgeous thing. No, gorgeous.
Beautiful.
All right. Well, there are two ways to look at this, folks. Either it was such a rich topic that yielded such treasures that it absolutely must be done in two parts, delivered in two parts, or...
It's for the absorption level, I think.
The absorption level, or just... uncontrolled babbling. No, I think I would
do
say
that.
It was rich. I think it was mining. We were mining.
I like that. Yes, we're miners.
So that produced a show not too long by any stretch,
no,
as far
of course
as I'm
not.
concerned. However,
or me,
since winging it is supposed to be a little more brief, typically, we're going to cut it into two because it's more than twice as long as anyone we've done in a while.
Right.
So. Tune in next time, every couple weeks, to whatever it is. Follow us and tune in boafonair.podbean.com, as in birds of a feather on air.podbean.com, and any other platform you can find us at BOAF, especially. There are lots of birds of a feather, but BOAF
on air,
that's us.
That's us.
Anyway, so we shall see you next time. But there's no salutation, there's no closing greeting for that.
No, I think we just say until next time. Ellipsis. ...
This has been Birds of a Feather on What the Flock Radio.